Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to History with DrNick. I'm going to tell you a little bit today about the Icelandic Althing. The Althing was a fascinating event that happened in Iceland every year, especially during the period 930 to 1262, when Iceland itself was not ruled by any kingdom. It instead was ruled by an assembly, and that's what a thing is. The Althing, that word means the Great Assembly, and the Great Assembly happened every summer in Iceland at a place called Þingvellir, which you can still go and see today. It's a very fascinating area of Iceland where the great rift zone between the two continental plates happens. It looks like this. We don't know quite exactly where the assembly itself happened, but we can tell you a little bit about how it worked. Iceland was ruled by 39 different chieftains, and those chieftains had various households throughout the small island of Iceland. Every year, they heard various disputes and decided various law cases. If there was a problem with any of these law cases, they would go up to the next level of courts, which was called the quarter courts, and there were 4 of them in Iceland. If a dispute could not be resolved at the quarter courts, it went to the great court at the Althing. The other thing that happened at the Althing from a legal standpoint is that the legislative assembly, which was called the Logretta, which consisted of those 39 chieftains plus 9 other members, and the law speaker, who was an official elected once every 3 years to preside over the parliament or the Althing at this event. And the law speaker had no power outside the Althing, but at the Althing he was as close as it came to a ruler of Iceland because he presided over that legislative assembly. So 2 things happened there. The legislative assembly would meet to talk about different laws that they might want to consider making, and the law speaker would also declaim every year from memory 1/3 of the laws. The law speaker also presided over hearing of law cases at Lögberg, or the Law Rock. And that's where all those cases I talked about earlier that had gone through the various levels of courts in Icelandic society would be held. So these were the most serious cases. They might involve murder or great thefts or harm, rape. Those sorts of cases often came up to this highest court. And they were tried by a sort of a system that's very similar to our jury system. Witnesses would be called for character. It really was not a system that had anything to do with evidence, but witnesses, neighbors, would be called by the various sides to attest to the character of the 2 people or the 2 parties involved in the dispute. And then a panel of various neighbors that had been agreed upon by the 2 parties would make the decision as to how the case would be resolved. And penalties often involved greater or lesser exile, so basically having to leave Iceland for a period of time or permanently could be some of the bigger penalties that came out of that. It wasn't all serious, though. The Althing was also an assembly of the people, and they came and they set up things called búða, or booths, which were temporary structures. And this was a time to meet together, to have markets, to trade goods, to see your friends from all over the 4 quarters of Iceland, to hear stories. It was essentially like Penzik. And many, many things happened at these assemblies, including marriage proposals, various business deals, plans for going Viking raiding. All those sorts of things were the type of things that people would make their plans on at the Althing. So you had this wonderful institution where it was part of these very serious cases, but also a chance for the people of Iceland to come together and to trade goods and to essentially have a big party. So, in conclusion, the Great Icelandic Althing was an institution unique in medieval society. After Iceland became part of Norway in 1262, it still continued to be held but it no longer had its legislative function quite in the same way once it became part of the Norwegian monarchy. But the Icelandic parliament to this day is still called the Althing, and they still revere the site of the original Althing in Thingvellir as the birthplace of their particular nation. So it's a very interesting place to visit. I've never been there, but apparently they don't know quite exactly where the Luckberg or the Law Rock was. They have some theories, but it's a very interesting area geographically because of its position along those two plates. Just as all of Iceland is, it's a very geologically active area of the world, and it must have been rather interesting to have your assemblies there. So that's a little bit about the Icelandic Althing, and have a great day, and I hope you've learned something.